Okay, looks like it's working again. Just a quick sound check here. This will be about 3 tools, and anything I publish here is all about a very practical take on things, because I just changed the name of this channel to Rebel Nomad. That's not because I want to be a nomad and be a rebel wherever I go. That's it's the opposite. Basically, I'm now viewed as a rebel by my home country and most of these clown world countries that Europe has turned into. The world outside of Europe is much more sane, much more practical, much less totalitarian. It's not a real problem, I think, for me to roam around and be myself. Not sure if this is actually live. I need to check that. So I'm never going to talk about things like Bitcoin or Monero in terms of investments, or personally, I'm in a situation where I'm not rich. I'm not going to retire ever, I think. Some of these aspects that now is an obvious problem in Europe, I've been fighting since even back into the 80s in some ways. And also, I can't just hide. I can't just be completely anonymous any longer, because it simply won't work. I need to build a new network. I need to be active psychologically. I can't live in this kind of state of affair any longer at all. So I started this setup yesterday. There's a couple of views. I don't expect much views at the beginning. I'm also gauging to the extent of, will this be shadow banned automatically because it's about Monero, and it's a work in progress. Like I mentioned yesterday, I will always talk about tools in a wider context, because it's a practical world we live in. It's a practical application that counts. I do respect that other people might have like much more ideological ways of doing it, and I can see a world where maybe I chose a career as a developer, like a pure developer, going into the tech side in the late 90s. I know people who did that, and I've seen them. One particular person I got in mind, he was actually part of building these carbon credit systems very early on. We're talking 2001 maybe. He actually got a job because he was helping me fix my boat and for the summer, and the guy with a neighboring boat was working at the university, and they got to talk. And back then you could get a really decent job just making it that way. So if I had ended up in that category, I totally see that maybe I would have gotten a lot of Bitcoin early on, so I actually would just coast away somewhere, or I might be caught up in I might end up being too caught up in the tech itself. I've had to struggle through these years of not giving in, and insisting to be free to start my own things. And part of that was starting a couple of teams in open source, a couple of business entities, and one of them ended up in a, you can call it like a not angel investment, but like a tiny investment to expand a very hot open source brand into my native country. It blew up in some interesting ways. I didn't realize how totally messed up even that part of the corporate world is. Anyway, so I've been one of these people who developers maybe despise and creators kind of suspect might be a techie, and I've been in this crossing between content and context and technology since before the internet. And when I did this particular stunt, I kept like my hand on the pulse of open source publishing technology, like CMSs, like Drupal and WordPress and these things. It was my daily work for a few years. It was like being in the forefront of what's going to happen and following trends and basically selling and building on the open source project itself, like commercializing the open source project was my focus, was my job. What I turned nothing into something. I played my cards very well. I didn't know how corrupt the game outside of the open source and to a certain degree within it is, and it's gotten much worse since then, of course. But the point is, why I'm going on about this is that there was a certain point of time when like following this pulse of these systems, there was a certain week where I noticed that, oh shit, well, Drupal is going to lose everything to WordPress except for, it's going to lose a lot of market share because there was this vibe. And then I spoke to a very established, very central CEO of a developer company, like a small company, but very centrally placed, and who's been part of building the digital gulag. It's been kind of fascinating to observe. He also came from a background where he started with print and then he got into, but I mean, many leagues beyond my reach. But we were working on the open source aspect and the open source organization together a lot. The one thing that was really worth noticing was that when I spoke with him, like that week or the week after, he volunteered that, yeah, he just noticed the same. He noticed the same thing at the same week, and it was completely the right call. I was out of that setup a bit later. My point is, if you're a super user, if you have some experience, if you've been around a bit, even completely new things like Bitcoin and Monero and even these phenomenon like Bitcoin is way bigger than, of course, a publishing system. It touches every kind of aspect of reality for someone who starts getting into it. At some point, I think it will affect also those that do not do the work, put the work into to get into it somehow. But it is working. It is operating within a system. It's creating a new world within an existing system, and everyone who's in Bitcoin or Monero would understand these things because it's like a civilizational battle. If I was an investor, if these stunts, I did a couple in the open source universe would have paid off, and I would have remained a shareholder, and I would have gotten into that track. There was an opening. There was an opening to go global on this. If I'd gone that direction, I think I would have left eventually, because there is like all of this. I've never been politically correct at all. I've always just been shutting up. And my point is that if you get too deep into it, inevitably you'll get caught up in it. In a way, for me, being a very practical person, needing to build something new, needing to dox myself and just go out there in this chaos, I need to be very practical. I need to build an income within towards the end of this year. I need to be somewhere with a new income. I need to be right, not about, oh, I'll buy 0.05 Bitcoin now and I'll can retire in 2030. No, I need to be right about what's going to work for the rest of this year, the next calendar year. How am I going to do with this global taxes things, and how am I going to start a new business unit, and how am I going to be able to be out there living in jurisdictions where I feel like I can do it. Viewed from this practical viewpoint, and especially taking into account how the world was before the internet, how social masses work, how these ideological spells of like communism works, and it returns with a vengeance, and how technocracy works, and all of this. I cannot afford to adhere to one solution, even if it is proven beyond reasonable doubt that it will win. I need to hedge my bets to a certain degree. And this is a very good example, because I have no doubt that Bitcoin will win, maybe already has won, but I also have this sneaking suspicion that it's maybe not hijacked, but it's surrounded, it's partly co-opted. In my home country, the mental climate around these things is abysmal. It's I don't even want to go into it. And then you have the other community, the other solution, which is Monero, and it's even more. How to put it? Yeah, well, I'm never gonna use my LinkedIn account I'm not gonna rely on my LinkedIn account and my government ID or whatever at all ever again. I'm gonna use it when I have to, but other than that, it's about building in defiance. It's about building something outside of the failing systems that will carry me, at least, over into a future where there is more sanity and freedom. I'll have to relocate if I have to. I'll have to keep moving if I have to, but I'll do it. So you have these three things. Bitcoin is around to stay. You can't take it down. You can't censor it. These things are without. There's no use arguing about those things. I just know that is right. I also know that even though Bitcoin Lightning is criticized in many ways, it works. I've used it a lot. And whatever I do, I'll try to offer services receiving Bitcoin Lightning. And if that is illegal, I'll set up a satellite site, or I'll move, or I'll skip that jurisdiction for a company or for my own living. Monero then is different. Monero also just works. Monero also can't be taken down, but it's private, so you have totally visible. I know how to use Bitcoin anonymously, but also know that won't work in all cases. So for me, in a practical way, moving through this terrain and these civilizational processes, and basically Europe at least failing, I obviously lead Monero. One of the things is I'm running. Am I running this through Malvad, or did I forget? Probably doxed myself quite hard again. So, just an example. Malware is an excellent browser. I've got no connection to it. Let's turn it on and see if there is a glitch or not. Probably not. It works. I just pay. That user experience of using malware a couple of years ago when I started, you get the number. The number is your account. You can create a new account whenever you want. You use the number, like this long number, to log in, and you pay with Monero. It's completely anonymous, and it's running in RAM. So even the VPS servers themselves, there's nothing logged. Why would I not use a VPN like that? Why would I not have that available under any kind of circumstances? Even if I've got like these old phones and cheap devices, why wouldn't I obviously turn on my malware browser if I'm in an airport? Obviously turn it on if I'm in the country that doesn't like freedom. Or so Monero is here to stay, and Monero is the only real free market out there. I've seen this. I've experienced my home country going from a vibrant scene where you had family businesses all over the place, tiny shops, and it was great. And I've seen my birth town go from being this vibrant place where corporations were taking over. Like, I lived in a certain area of the city for around 20 years, and it went from all of the tiny family-run or individuals or tiny companies running small shops that were peppering the streets and all of the storefronts with some corporate outlets mixed in. It's gone to the opposite. We had our studio in that area for the last few years, and we had one of the few family-run businesses that were left in the city was on the corner, and we had them as a customer. And but they were large enough and they were specialized enough, and their meat, it was like a butcher shop, where so the quality was so stellar that they were able to hang on to that niche and more or less corner the market of the city. Everything else, with a couple of exceptions, like tiny workshops, gone. Even the family-run, there was a sporting shop selling bikes and things, and I think I talked to them about this, or maybe it was like a newspaper article, and like they're never gonna sell. No, we're gonna be here. We're never gonna go away. We're never gonna sell. Well, they did eventually, because they got offered a printed fiat in obscene amounts, I'm sure, and regulations and all of this bullshit, and probably brainwashed customers demanding the impossible and not understanding that the prices might be a bit higher, and all of these things were in play. My point is that I've seen a free market and a free society go towards the complete opposite. It's a desert. I've seen the same happen with these types of industries I've been in. I started a photography and then video production agency in 2014, and we did it as more or less like a stunt. Like, we're gonna do it even though it's impossible. We're gonna do it by professionalizing the product and our workflow and what we deliver, and we're gonna do a mix of meet space, networking hard, and online marketing, mix it together. We made a living out of it for a few years, and that is a huge success, but it was completely uphill, against the grain. it might look like there's a lot of successful single individual entrepreneurs out there, but you have to remember that what you see is that like a field that I know very well in at least this country, which is photography, and I know some of those who made a name for themselves in the same uphill struggle that we did. There's a handful maybe that end up very successful. They take all of it. There's like thousands that struggle to survive and they eventually give in. And it's not a free market because there are corporations with printed fiat and all of the regulations on their side, and they grab industries. They are successful startups and successful entrepreneurs. That's the label. But what they ultimately do is corner the market. With Monero, it's a completely different picture because it's a literally 100% global and free market. So it means that anyone can put anything up for sale and it might sell and they'll get paid directly. It is fragmented. It is free and unruly to such a degree that it can't be cornered by any corporation. All corporations will ignore it. It's anti-corporate, which is why it's really refreshing for me personally. Okay, let's do a so you have Bitcoin, and I would say Bitcoin, Lightning. I haven't tried Cashew. There is this ARC ring system coming up on Lightning. I haven't seen any of the news. I haven't checked it lately, but it works. And there are services on Bitcoin Lightning that are similar to what you find in the Monero space. Like Monero took over the so-called darknet markets. I'm thinking of it as like gray zone. I'm not interested in the really dark stuff. I don't need it. I'm not going to provide it. But I'm undoubtedly going to pass through jurisdictions, or I'm going to have to deal with things in my passport country where I'm in the gray area. Well, I've been living in that gray area a lot, so that's fine. There are stellar services on Bitcoin Lightning. Like one of the things I tried out was a couple of SMS verification services, and they worked as described. Then I didn't get the account registered, which is not the provider's fault. And of course, I wouldn't think of demanding 1,000 sats back or whatever I paid, maybe 2,000 or something, for an SMS that didn't work for registering a Gmail account. But what happened, I think, in one or two cases is that, well, they paid it back without me prompting them. Good luck trying to get anything kind of service like that from corporations. Maybe with the exception of this Amazon thing that I really can't stand. I've worked on Amazon AWS server since its early days, so it's not that I haven't used it. But in most cases, just you'll be stonewalled, and there would be some kind of tiny print that you've broken the conditions of this or that. But this gray market, it works on Bitcoin Lightning, but it is really pronounced on Monero. And when I registered an account and I started experimenting with the XMR Bazaar now, that was like a real boost, because I realized I could put anything up for sale here. Then later in the day, I was like, okay, well, there's like the traffic is building and there's more people out there using it, and it is really free and it is there. So I'm gonna put a lot of stuff up there. I'm gonna do some videos on it. So you use Monero to buy services. It is not. It's possible that I'll end up somewhere that I wouldn't like to be inside of the next years. That something like now 2020 happens again, and I get shut down inside of a jurisdiction where I'm basically alien, and I have to deal with that. And maybe I'll lose my phone, or I need to upgrade it, and maybe everything is surveilled. Maybe all kind of payment railways are maybe it can be tricky to even download and use a VPN, and especially do it in a reliable way. And well, of course, I would have some Monero. Of course, I would use Monero. Even I could pay for malware, like sending cash in an envelope, or I could pay even using a card. It wouldn't really be a risk for me. But why wouldn't I support that system? And why wouldn't I be in the space? And why wouldn't I have routines around these things? It's really necessary. The next thing is gonna make the next one is the point of hate, or the point of this is why I'm talking about these things as the echo chambers, and you have to balance those echo chambers off. And like in practical sense, this is all about being practical. This is all about building. This is all about surviving and retaining some freedom and moving around, because this is what I'm about. This is what I need to be about. So I'm going to share it. Obviously, USDT, USDC, it is in some ways planned as being this half CBDC, or it's going to merge with CBDCs, or I mean, Tether relocated to El Salvador, and now suddenly they want to innovate, and they want to create these, what did they call it? Some kind of chip, like biochip that can be inserted in your skin. Yeah. It's evil as fuck. It's certainly going to be captured, but it's a tool. One example here is that I've been using Travala to pay my flights for a couple of 2-3 years now. It just works. It's a great service. I'll do some kind of review at some point later. There was another one around. There's another one coming now on Bitcoin. We need more travel agents that can book your flight using Bitcoin, and it has been flawless. The only tiny hiccup I had was like it takes a while before the funds you send get registered. So I ended up doing a night in Dubai that I didn't want to do. But other than that, and that's my fault, I should have transferred more. Like on my Travala account now, I have a 150 USDT or C or whatever, which means that if I need to fly somewhere, even without transferring something, I can just book it within seconds. It is no cards involved, no banks involved. And why would I keep Bitcoin? It wouldn't be Bitcoin once you transfer it. It is an EIU, of course, or even Monero. It used to. I felt really great booking flights with Monero through Travala. Now it's not an option. Of course, I know that. I mean, you're never going to be harder KYC'd than when you're on an airport, on an airliner. But it's not the point. It's just like it just feels great. Now Monero is not an option for Travala. Is Bitcoin going to be banned? Will there be like a KYC on the incoming funds? Who knows? I'm going to use it as long as I can, and obviously then I'll use USDT or C, because I don't want to be in a situation where I suddenly need to fly somewhere and Bitcoin just crashed, or Bitcoin is going up a lot and suddenly I've got way too much fund in an app. So there is a space for this. And also, even if USDT or C is going to be one of the main surveillance tools, even if it's going to become the CBDC, why would I not learn how to use it like a tool, like I've used bank accounts through the years? I had my bank account banned, not banned, but I had my bank account, my transfers abroad blocked in 2020 because I suddenly didn't have a paycheck. If you haven't got a paycheck, you can't transfer money out of the country. This is how Europe is killing itself. So obviously, well, there's a thing called ATMs, and there's a thing called crypto. So, and I've seen this I think I've been on 12 boards. I've been running a handful of small business units, and I've seen this kind of nefarious shit since way back when. And I've always managed it. We've always managed it. It's been annoying like hell. In one instance, with the photography agency, I didn't have access to my own corporate account for a year, I think, and my initial problem was to actually convince my business partner that this is an actual problem. Well, look, I can try to do it online again. It won't work. he's even got like a gangster background, but even he didn't really get it in the beginning, and then he saw it fail, and yeah, okay. In the end, it's just so insane. The way I got access to my own corporate account in the end was to take my passport and visit a real estate agent, which is part of this national bank, who then I convinced him to actually KYC me on the spot and send that KYC off to the bank itself, and it worked. We had our funds in the other co-op. Our funds were hijacked by some rebelling developers, and they used the wrong access to gain access to our funds. And with my longtime partner, we wrestled it back. He did all of the grunt work and contacting all of these authorities and the business register, and I did kind of the coaching and the thinking and like the strategizing. We got it back, and then I think he wasted it in Africa. So my point is that you need to learn how to use and abuse all of these tools. I wish I could live 100% without a bank account. I'm very close to it. I hope I can start a business without a corporate account, without a corporate entity, but I'm kind of seeing the future shape up in a way where I need to do it, and it's probably something offshore. I'm contemplating a longer stay in Georgia, the country. We'll see. The one thing I do know is that starting something new in Europe, in my passport country, I went back late 2022, and I got new contacts within 3 weeks, and I had people who really trusted me after a short while, and ultimately all of them depended on the state, on the system, all of them were captured in the end, even the most energetic, entrepreneurial-minded people. So it's a tool that they need to learn how to use. There is a symbiosis between these. I think that Bitcoin and Monero is a binary pair. Without Monero as a driver in the background, there would be maybe even less focus on Bitcoin privacy. In the near future, there will be probably more pressure on Bitcoin from the Monero crowd. And of course, Monero on its own, wouldn't Monero have succeeded early on if it was the original crypto and Bitcoin took that path? Probably not, because all of the very strong actors would have been hyper-focused on stopping it or changing the course of its trajectory early on. Was that what happened with Bitcoin? Maybe. To a certain degree, it doesn't matter. For me, it doesn't matter because I'm putting these three here together. Bitcoin, I obviously will always try to earn Bitcoin. I'll try to keep some Bitcoin. I'll try to use it. Monero, same. And spending is probably going to be USDC. There have been some attempts at synthetic stable coins and things like that. I'm not sure if that's going to succeed. And then you got, I'm going to put a line here because there are other tools, like you got stable coins for gold, and it's more like an oddity. I have like a $200 of bucks gold on a cool card, just in case. Who knows? Maybe I'm caught somewhere and like gold is repriced and suddenly it's the global currency and it goes 10x and Bitcoin takes a bump and I need to fly somewhere. So it's a part of it. I do agree that almost everything is shitcoins. But you know, this is another thing that is dividing people. You can't ignore Solana. I'm very happy that I got completely out, or almost completely. I've got some Ethereum for fuel. I got out of Ethereum early on, and it was a very easy, very simple reasoning. It took me half an hour to conclude. Well, the stakeholder thing is a commie thing, and it's gonna fail. It's failing. Solana is like a venture. Some people call it like the venture capital answer to Ethereum. It's a shitcoin. It's gonna be part of the surveillance grid, but it's a transport for USDTC. So it exists. It's there. I'm gonna go through another example. Like this is. It's a shitcoin. I couldn't say on the chain that it's a shitcoin, and who knows how. There are some community challenges, but people do make some money. I've had some days where I spend I live like a peasant, happily. I spend next to nothing. I eat very simple food because of a diet, and frankly now I enjoy it and I'm used to it. And sometimes I can produce content, and I get like $8, and I see others building accounts and doing 50 to 30 a day. I could live on $30 a day. So why would I disregard something like that, where I can produce, I can publish, I get this, I can transfer it into Bitcoin if I want to, Bitcoin Lightning, I can transfer it into Monero if I want to. As soon as I'm into this universe, I can do whatever I want with it, or I can pay my plane ticket. I can park it on Hive in the Hive dollar system. Obviously, I wouldn't leave more than a few $100s in a system like that because it might fail, or it might go the wrong way, or it might collapse like all shitcoins eventually do. But why would I disregard it, especially when I can use it as a hosting platform for my images and video? But the main trifecta is here. Like in terms of payment railways, payment rails, and practical living in a never-changing world where I'm moving around and I need to build something new. This is what it's about. If I could make a living on Bitcoin, that would be my priority. It's what I've been testing out and to a certain degree trying out, and macro payments on Nostr is cool and everything, but ultimately We're not quite yet there yet. What's wrong with this? Maybe no one is ever gonna listen to this. I don't care. Maybe some AI is gonna scrape it and whatever. Blue list because it is the one. This keyboard is just madness. All my gear is madness. I haven't spent any money on anything for years because there has been no sensible way of investing other than getting into these universes, other than buying some of this, keeping what I have, spending frugally to get around to the next fork in the road, and there is a lot to be said about forks in the road. I would say that someone being very hardcore on the Bitcoin or even Monero side, being completely oblivious about the USDC and how to manipulate and use illegal CBDCs, this totalitarian system can't be accepted, at least in Europe. Might get caught out. You need I need a kind of reserve in this. If I spend the USDT I have now and I live very frugally, I have a runway over 2 or 3 months maybe. But it's a reserve. It's something I can build on. It's something I can put in a spreadsheet if I do my cash flow, and it's going down. Oh yeah, but it's relatively stable, especially up against local currencies. Like I'm traveling in some rough countries. I'm basically going where there is more practical, more freedom and sanity on the ground in practical ways. Rough countries, happy. It makes me happy to stay in a rough, sane country that has more freedom and sanity on the ground. So in those cases, there's something to be said about stability, and obviously I've spread this across several wallets, and obviously I expect at some point maybe one of these wallets will be blocked or whatever, and hopefully I'll be able to spend it by just instantly transferring it somewhere else or use another service. But ultimately, in the end, almost all service providers in the KYC universe, which includes Bitcoin, there's this cat and mouse game. There's this war going on, and services come and go, and it's gonna become easier in some cases. It's going to be harder in some cases. There are lots of business opportunities. If I knew a very established travel agent, I would definitely just suggest, well, let's start a tiny app. Let's start a tiny conversion site. Let's do this with your account in this way. Let's set this up in a separate unit, and we'll do this in a legal way via a jurisdiction where it's legal to offer this, and you got a really good go at a new real business, global business. I mean, basically anyone running a travel agency can do this on the planet. You can even do it small scale. You can do it as a club. I want to do like a Rebel Nomad club because I know that there are even legal ways of doing it. Like everyone is a shareholder. If everyone is a member of a co-op, the internal economy is different. Like all the regulations and all of everything, like insurance and everything, is you're not an employee, you're a partner. So there are ways of working with these things as well. Okay, I guess this is it for now. It's a suite of tools in this perspective. You need to have a strategy. You need to adhere to the real world. You need to meet people building the right culture. I find the right culture for me is both in the Bitcoin universe, the Monero universe. maybe in the small business USDT universe, if that is gonna be a thing, or like shitcoin universe, only to pull earnings into Bitcoin and Monero, and to a certain degree stablecoins, or buy gold. So you need other strategies for that. Tactics and tools is kind of the same, kind of included. Tactic is included in the tools. But ultimately, these are tools, and like especially with Bitcoin, there is a real danger, because if you view it as the end all be all solution, if you view it as the new reality that everyone has adhered to, and maybe it doesn't work out that way, don't conflate the tool, like don't conflate the map with the terrain. That's a tendency, that's a problem I see in the Bitcoin universe, really seriously. And you kind of have to step outside of it to to even see that you're in that kind of echo chamber. I'm not saying that the Bitcoin crowd and the Bitcoin collective analysis is wrong. What I'm saying is that it's maybe not complete. It doesn't take into consideration all phenomena on the planet, all future timelines, or whatever you call it, and it doesn't take into account every individual situation. That's what I'm saying. Okay, I'll end it here, this here now, and see if it gets any views at all. If not, it is... Oh, I haven't been showing my... I've been going through this doc and it's not been showing. Well, I guess that's fine. 0 viewers. I'm happy.